Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast with Alan Verlander. He is CEO and founder at Airstream Ventures, got a bunch of experience as well as a CEO. Was the CEO for Jack Sports Council and CEO at Tax Layer Bold, executive director of sports and entertainment at City of Jacksonville. Once upon a time, that started in 2012. Got a very rich experience and already having fun talking to him. This podcast is brought to you by my podcasting company. It's called podpare.com. If you want to start and scale and monetize a podcast the unconventional way through cold outreach, we get you a bunch of guests. We get you on pods as well. You can go to podpare.com. Alan, welcome to Pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about Airstream Ventures.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Thanks for having me. Basically, I've been in sports, worked in sports my entire career. Got out, played college baseball, and decided to get out and have worked in sports since 1994. So, 30 years, I guess, and have done a lot of different things. Worked in college athletics for a long time, and then kind of shifted and went into the sports tourism world. We started Airstream Ventures back in 2018 as an event management sports marketing company. Quick story: the reason we called it Airstream Ventures is I own an Airstream with four other guys, and we take it to sporting events and music festivals, and kind of create memories and experiences and events. And so that's why we named it Airstream Ventures. And doesn't really simulate necessarily a sports marketing company, but it is something that we enjoy. Yeah, the purpose, we like a lot of people, we started the company, and then all of a sudden we got hit with a pandemic around the world, and had to very quickly realize, okay, events have shut down, which means we either have two routes. One, we can shut our company down that just started, and all of us try to find new jobs, or two, try to salvage it. And so we realized that we can salvage it, and we kind of pivoted and went into the sports tourism opportunity, working with cities across the country in the United States, helping them build their sports tourism platform. So we were talking about Spartan earlier. Spartan comes into a town. They fill up thousands of hotel rooms wherever they are. Their people are eating in restaurants. They're doing all kinds of things. And so cities around the country, especially smaller communities where the business tourism was drying up because of things like this. You can jump on Zoom, you can jump on Teams. You don't have to send people into those communities. So on the weekends, they were really trying to find tourism. And so currently we're in 9 different communities around the country. We span from kind of central South Florida all the way to Vancouver, Washington. And we meet with our partners regularly, and we bring sporting events to them for the purpose of booking hotel nights and restaurants and creating an economic impact for that community.
Joe De Sena, Spartan. We both love the man and the company. What do you do exactly for them? And what do you have to say on organizations like that and Ironmans?
Yeah, I think Joe is obviously a brilliant guy. Had a life change, and kind of went a 180. And we've worked with them for a long time. They do events all over the world, and they have built an incredible company in all the different things that they do. And really, they're an event company, but they're also a lifestyle change company and a personal change company. And if you want to get healthy and you want to kind of get a right mindset and get structured in your life, Spartan is certainly a great way to do that. And so we've helped them with events all over. And, it just helped. Joe is a very disciplined guy, as you well know. And so it does help bring, their types of events help bring discipline and training into your life that is kind of transferable over into your personal, day-to-day business life as well, and family life, what have you. So, but things like that, the Iron Man, events like that, they come into communities, they transform communities. People talk about, well, hotels fill up and restaurants fill up. That is certainly true, but the Uber drivers get more business. There's all kinds of things that help Ironmans and those. We work a lot with all different types of events. I think the one thing that we saw during COVID was a lot of people had passions about their hobbies that they turned into a business. And so they created this business model of now creating these events all over, and they need to scale it. And so how do they scale that? Well, we're a company, Airstream Ventures, that can help take you to 9 different cities very quickly. And so, that's what we really enjoy, is working with great event rights holders that want to help scale their event and make it successful.
And the inspiration provided by these events, there was once a time when I was a kid that I looked up to my best friend's stepdad, which was a multiple time Iron Man, and I thought he was half God or something. And just the inspiration of these events and the belief in oneself and the hope that this did. And I can certainly picture Mont Tremblant, Iron Man, that unfortunately stopped happening. I think that's just amazing. And yeah, the reverberation that these events have throughout a community, I think it's super important. I'd like to have my own Spartan slash Iron Man one day, but it seems that would be way more of a passion project than a profit machine. It seems that it's hard to make a profit on these events. I mean, Joe sells tickets at in Mexico, right? It starts at like $200, something like that. Ironmans, they start at $800. But even then, I'm not sure how these folks can make money, and these businesses look extremely stressful. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I think events are challenging, but I know in Joe's business model a lot. They carry a lot of payroll, a lot of people working on their events, but they also rely on sponsorships, revenues outside of their normal. Just you pay to participate in that, and certainly, I mean, you look at all different types of sporting events. We work with the American Cornhole League, which, who would have thought that throwing beanbags, into a hole could become this big sport that we're all watching on national television and around the world. And so, I think how these events have had to monetize is their revenue streams come from a versatile kind of ways. Not only are the entry fees important, but what kind of concessions programs do you have? Do you have a merch program? Do you have, you know, um, sponsor program, all these kinds of things. And then, like the Ironmans, like the Spartans, they're also building a lifestyle change in people that then they can sell different lines of a product that you can use all throughout the year. So certainly after COVID, I think these companies have had to get really creative. Um, but I certainly the ones that are staying in business are the ones that have figured it out, right? If you can't continue, unless you have an unlimited bankroll, you can't continue to produce these events if they're just losing money. And so, I think like the events like an Ironman or Spartan or some of these, they rely on sponsorships. They rely on community grants. I know in some of the ones that we've helped them with, you get community grants, and so there's all different kinds of ways. And I think the event world and companies like ourselves that have done it for 30 years, we understand that, and we can help bring some education to these events that maybe are a little more green or a little more coming out of COVID and saying, hey, we can make a living at this. Well, there's all different kinds of ways, and if you're bringing that impact to that community, there are different streams of revenue that you can really tap into. So it's certainly, you have to have a good product, and you have to have people interested in your product, but I think those ones that we work with have really seemed to figure it out, and then we're there to help assist them.
I'm also thinking of CrossFit, as a movement. Well, these businesses, they might be somewhat low on the cash flow level and high on the stress level. On the branding level, they're just humongous. I think I think Joe can certainly have a multi-billion dollar exit with the Spartan brands, because it's that pride, just Iron Man. I think they became the Iron Man group not so long ago. They acquired UTMB, Ultra Mont Blanc, which is just a mythical race crossing France, Italy, and Switzerland. And the brand, the emotions behind these things, you know, just the fact that you've accomplished them and that you made life memories, that is immensely valuable. It's just the same reason why we see these Iron Man tattoos on people. How much that is worth, you know, like someone tattooing themselves with your brand. I mean, the Iron Man it's certainly already at billions, in my opinion.
Well, I think that's, that's a whole separate podcast in and of itself, is branding, right? The thing about the Ironmans, Spartans, any kind of marathon that you do, anything to that point, I've done a couple of marathons. I've done several Spartan races. I've never done an Ironman. I don't think I ever will, but have trained, I guess is the word that I'm trying to get to, is training. And so throughout that training, the end goal is to finish a Spartan race, or finish an Ironman or a marathon or whatever it is. The knowledge that you gain about yourself during that training, I think, impacts you to that brand, because that brand now has a special place in your heart, because it wasn't necessarily about the end goal of accomplishing that. While that was amazing, it was about the journey that led you to that. And so you certainly can't decide, if you've never trained or anything, hey, I'm going to go out and run a Spartan race tomorrow. I mean, you may you may not do any of the obstacles and finish, if you will, but you're not going to do it the way you want to do it. You and I have done that, Charles. And so, but I think with this brand and what these events have certainly done is they've created a reinstilled a pride in yourself that, hey, I can accomplish certain things if I set my mindset to it. And that's transferable over to work. That's transferable over to my relationships. That's transferable over to my faith, whatever it is that you want to do. So that's where I think these brands like a Spartan and an Ironman, they really embed themselves internally into each one of us, that, hey, that brand, that event made me get off my rear and do this, and therefore I'm loyal to that brand because of that.
Right. That's just insane to me. Imagine being the CEO of a company and people have your logo tattooed up on their skin, you know? Like, what responsibility do you have? And we've seen sports organization like FIFA completely lose heads, you know, with corruption scandals. So imagine if Iron Man would have something similar. So you have a lot of weight to carry. Now, 2024 just rung a couple of days ago. What are the sporting trends that we're going to observe this year? What's new? What's hot? What's trendy?
Well, I think you've certainly got your youth sports will continue to be a major growth. Um, I think that continues to be a big thing, whether it's your baseballs, your soccers, your lacrosses, those kinds of things. I think those will continue to grow. I do think those sports are coming to a point where they're going to correct themselves a little bit, because we're putting too much pressure on kids. And certainly the goal of these sports is to get to the college level, maybe, and only about 4% ever get to the college level. So do we think that the 96% are failures? No. We were maybe had a misconstrued really value of that sport. I think a lot is going to go on in the professional sports world. We see that with all the money and the television deals. You've got some big sports leagues that they're embedding on their new television rights deals. So you're gonna see that. College sports, I think those that follow that, there's a lot going on in their space with the transfer portal and the NIL agreements. But I think for the general, so those are more for the fan specific stuff and those leagues. I think the trends that you're going to continue to see are people wanting to be healthy. You see the yogas of the world. you see all of these that are the mental. I think what's happened, and this is a separate podcast in and of itself, but the mental stability from what I'm reading and seeing is so important that I think in 2024, people are going to focus on, well, does this sport help me mentally? We see unfortunate situations all over our world every day. And if people were just mentally stable and doing things to help their mindset, maybe we wouldn't see as many of those things. So I think that certainly translates into sports. I know into a lot of my friends, and I'm in my early 50s, but a lot of my friends are really, they're wanting to exercise more, but not necessarily, hey, go out and run 3 miles, every day, or lift weights, the normal stuff. They're really wanting to do things that help their body, mind, and spirit. So I think you're going to see more and more of that, because this mental health thing is real that we have in our world. And yes, you need to get strong, you need to get cardio, and you need to get all the things that we've discussed. But if your mind's still not right, um, you know, sometimes not great things can happen. So I think you're going to see a lot of things really come to the forefront in the sports world, talking about that.
Right. Well, any sports that gets your cardio going, and that is hard, will bring huge mental benefit. I started last year an organization called certifiedgrit.com. So it's basically Ironmans and or Spartan races, but on Zoom, So it's 5 COs, and we just do a hit, but for 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's quite intense. For example, at once I did 2,000 jumps, squats, and 1,000 push-ups, and yeah, in less than 2 hours. So intense stuff like that. And after that, we just meditate.
Yes.
I'm just not sure the scalability of it. I think the mental benefit is just humongous and yeah, obviously we stretch at the end. Um, because during the workout as well, it's like Navy SEAL style, but instead of having someone screaming at you, it's someone that puts like cookies in the jar, cookie in your brain. So
Right.
we get to learn about the CEOs, their challenges, their goals, and so forth. And then we tell them like, look, if you don't finish that workout, how will you make $10 million this year if last year you've made one? Um,
Right.
what do you think about that concept? Do you think it can scale? Do you think I can become the Iron Man of online, very difficult events if I give them a little badge they can put on their LinkedIn afterwards?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's certainly a model for that. I think when you look at exercising and you look at, physical growth and all of that, I do think people enjoy the camaraderie of that. So can you translate that from a gym to an online presence, and create that same camaraderie? I think that's the thing is, but I think in this world that we live in with Zoom and with Teams and all these brands, that we do this now more, and the connection is there. There's people that I talk to now all the time around the country and in business. I would consider them a pretty good friend now. I've never met them personally, but I have connected with them, and there is a certain vibe that we have now that I do anything for them, but yet I've never shook their hand physically. And so that same concept carries over to what you're trying to do. I think if you can build that, certainly Peloton, the company has created a similar thing to where you get on and you look at the screen, whether you're on a treadmill or a bike or whatever it is, and there's other companies that have done that, and they've created this community. And maybe once a year you take that group that is all around the world and you create a destination weekend for that, to where everybody does get to travel, and you're going to work out once a year together, but we're going to meet each other and we're going to have camaraderie for that weekend, and then we're going back to our separate ways, but I've gotten to know you. So I think there's all different kinds of ways there. And I think people are so used to using that technology. If you tried to do it 10 years ago, I think you'd have been ahead of your time. But, nowadays, I think we're almost approaching that as normal.
So what would be your goals for this year as the CEO of this company?
Yeah, so I think the goals for us with Airstream Ventures are a couple of things. One, we certainly want to build our revenue and build our profitability, like any company. We had a good year last year, but we need to have a really good year going into our sixth year. Like I said, we represent and we work with 9 different communities all over the country, from South Florida all the way out to Washington State. So we're trying to add more. We'd like to be in about 12 to 15 cities by the end of 2024, which certainly increases our footprint. And then, our big thing, again, is yes, we want to be profitable. Yes, we want to grow our footprint. But as we are growing that, we want to make a true difference in those communities. And it goes well beyond just saying, hey, we brought a Spartan race, or we brought a USA Cycling event. USA Cycling, we work with them very closely. We brought a USA Cycling event to that community. Well, that's great, and that's what we're paid to do. But we also talk about, as a company, is we want to have an impact on that community and kind of leave a legacy on top of that. So if bringing that USA Cycling event, or bringing that USA wrestling event, or volleyball event, whatever it is, help get people off the couch into a change of life mode, then we've made a true impact and created a legacy in that community. We didn't just put money into that community. We didn't just put another event and fill heads and beds, but we impacted people's lives. And at the end of the day, within Airstream Ventures, that's what we're trying to do, is impact lives through the mediums of bringing events to different communities. And so that's really our 3 approach: profitability, growth in communities, and making an impact in people's lives.
You've did that last year. How will you amplify that this year?
Yeah, I think by just being able to do more events. Last year we did 51 events all over the country. I think certainly the idea would be, and our goals are to do, to increase that by about 15% more events. We went from 2 cities 2 years ago to now we're in 9 cities. So we grew 7 cities. So if we could sustain that type of growth again in 2024, and then the more communities we get into, the more lives we're impacting, right? So there's a natural scale to that. So, I think those are the 3 things that we really focus on. But really, we reverse those, because the first and foremost thing that we do is, if we're truly focusing on impacting people's lives, then the growth of the cities, the growth of the profitability just follows the trail of that. So we want to make sure that our mindsets, our hearts are in the right place, that then follow the growth in the different cities. And then once you have the growth in the cities, then the profitability comes behind that.
And your ideal customer persona, it's a decision maker working at the municipality.
Yeah, so we every city's different. Every city is built differently. Some cities we work directly with the municipalities. Some cities we work with their convention and visitors bureau that is put in place to be the marketer for that community and the event person for that community. So those are our 2 people that we kind of are entities that we work with. We certainly, most of our cities are smaller in nature. So we're not working with the New Yorks or the Chicagos or the Dallas or big cities like that. We're focused on more of the cities that are 50,000 in population and below, that really need that help, and that we can service that. That also are communities that want events. As you've done events all over the world, Charles, and that city's got to want that event. And they've got to be prepared to do that event. So we like to check out those cities beforehand and make sure that they are prepared to be able to go into the sports tourism plan. And then, finally, they have to have some resources, because to bring an Iron Man, to bring a Spartan, to bring a American Cornhole League or whatever, it does cost money. And so is that community willing to spend a little bit of money in tax dollars and tourist dollars to bring those events? And so all of that is done in our research and development phase. And if those things match and they want to do that, then it's a perfect city for us.
Love it, Alan. Thank you for sharing the value today. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, no, thank you. Love everything that you're doing, and it was fun to connect about some events that were synonymous to both of us. You can find out more about us at airstreamventures.com. And we just actually introduced a new website at the first of the year. So, but yeah, if you want to interested in events, or you're a city podcast, you're a city, and you're interested in us working with you, just look at airstreamventures.com, and that'll tell you all you need to know, and reach out to us. So appreciate the time, Charles, and appreciate you reaching out and having me on.